game day.
Welcome into an episode of Cheese Focus Live. We've got a full show ready to go to the dog pound and to beat up on the Browns. So we're going to talk a little offense, defense. I think that the Chiefs still have a tackle problem. Big surprise there. And they're facing the best pass rusher in all the NFL. So we're going to talk about that. We're also going to focus on some of the positives heading into Cleveland and just overall how we view this game. My name is Quentin Morris. We got Thiz running the show in the background, and now a guy who could throw as many interceptions as Jameis Winston. It is the old man himself, JP. What's up going?
That's
What's
absolutely
going on?
true.
I think you could. I think you could if you were out on a football field. I think you and Jameis Winston could both throw as many interceptions. Now his ball would go much farther than yours.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think you'd struggle to throw a bubble screen.
Absolutely.
But I also think that ball would get picked off.
It definitely would. I mean, I'm not going to lie about that. It's been kind of an uneventful week to a degree. What's up, Will? What's up, Philip? But Steven Nelson, from what I hear, they're kind of happy with what they're seeing, the little bit that they've seen of him, which is a good thing. But let's start off with the injury report because that's important.
Yeah, let me just go over that real quick. It's much longer for Cleveland than it is for Kansas City.
Yeah.
The only big ones here, DJ Humphries, his hamstring, he still hasn't practiced this week, which is not looking good for him. Harrison Butker, he's been limited all week, which that's good news for him. And then the final one that's worth noting is Juwan Taylor was limited with a knee injury on Wednesday, but it was a full participant today. Those are the top three. Everybody else who appeared on the injury report earlier in the week was a full participant today.
Yeah, I mean, wouldn't hurt my feelings if Taylor was injured, or like I said before the show, in an Uber, the fuck going out of the fucking Kansas City, but it is what it is. From what I heard, they were going to try and put Butker in this week. Whether that happens or not, I don't know, but they were going to try and get him ready to go for this game. That would be nice to see him back that quick. I did hear, by at least the second or third week of December originally. So now it's looking like he's going to be in a little bit earlier, which is nice.
That's what we were expecting, right? When they put him on IR, we were expecting basically as soon as he was able to come back, his 21-day window opened up either late last week or maybe on Monday, something like that.
Friday.
Yeah. So, this is sort of what we were expecting right around this time for him to come back. But look, you haven't really missed a beat, knock on wood or whatever. You haven't really missed a beat with either of the two kickers you've brought in to replace him. So I don't think that there's a rush to bring him back, especially if the Bills lose to the Lions on Sunday. We are all Lions fans this week, Chiefs Kingdom, just like we were Rams fans last week. We are all Lions fans this week. If the Chiefs win in Cleveland and the Lions beat the Bills up in Detroit, then, I mean, we're getting one step closer to being able to officially lock up that one seed. That would give Kansas City a 3-game advancement with 4 games left. So this is a huge week for both teams. I mean, it's basically a must-win for the Bills going up against arguably the best team in the NFC. So this is a big week for them. And with that being said, you lock up that one seed. There's no need to rush Harrison Butker back. Maybe you get him into a game, just to get some real live reps because, kicking a ball in practice can only mean so much. But with how effective he's been, I'm not really worried about that. Him trying to come back and to get, that what's that rest versus rust, right?
Yeah.
That sort of, where you're at. I mean, the Chiefs have played an extra season of games during this run over the last couple years. They've played an extra 16 games over the last few years because of their playoff runs. So I'm not really worried about that because Harrison Butker has been one of the guys that's been in every single one of those runs. Yep. So I completely leaving that up to the coach's decision whether or not they feel it's necessary for a guy like him to get those real live reps. So yeah, it's good that he has been limited. And I do think that he's definitely going to be back before the playoffs. And remember, Kansas City is playing 3 games in 10 days.
Yeah.
So this is a real big, said, we looked at JP. Remember when the schedule came out and we were like, geez, how again?
Yeah.
Again? They're doing this to the Chiefs again in December. This is
Yeah.
we're here now. This is that time. And I know that we like to make fun of the Browns, and rightfully so. Uh, this is still a physical football team, right? Like
Yes, it
Miles
is.
Garrett is not. It's
Miles
not
Garrett's
just
scary.
Miles Garrett, right? Like this a very it is a very aggressive defense. It burns them quite a bit, but
Yeah.
it's also very physical defense. So this is not a team that you're just going to be able to walk all. This is not your dad's you, Cleveland Browns team, right?
No, not the
They're,
Jets. I mean,
they're
regardless of what
good.
people want to, I'm more worried about Cleveland than I would be about the Jets.
Hey, amen to that.
So I agree. The one thing about Butker not being, I don't know if you noticed this or not, they didn't automatically go to a field goal on every play over the last 3 weeks. It was, when Butker was in there, oh, well, we got Butker. We guaranteed those points, so we're not going to worry about it so much. They really didn't do that as much with him out. And I don't mind that. I wish they would actually try a little bit harder in the end zone, or in the red zone. But it is what it is. What worries me is the fact that, like you said, that defensive line is kind of scary, and our offensive line is scary on the opposite end. So I'm worried a little bit about Mahomes. If they put
I,
Miles Garrett up against Taylor, we're fucked.
if you give me the game plan for the Chiefs Browns game, if you were like, hey, Quentin, what are your general game plan heading into this game? Run the damn
Damn straight.
ball, because
Damn straight.
I do not want to see Patrick Mahomes and Miles Garrett get to talking about what makes for good Christmas gifts in the backfield.
Damn
This
straight.
is run the damn ball, use your interior offensive line, try and relieve some of these hits that are
You know what
going to
else you
be
could do?
coming.
You know what else you could do? You could leave P. Ryan in permanently just to stand behind Taylor. Because last week there was a play that P. Ryan put a hit on somebody. It was a secondary push, really, and he laid this dude out. And thank God he was right behind Taylor when that happened, because Mahomes would have got flattened. And if it wasn't for P. Ryan making that block, oof, I don't know what would have happened. But you leave P. Ryan in there. Uh, he said, "Who's going to start at left tackle?" We don't know yet. From what I understand, they think Humphreys might be ready, but they're not 100% sure yet. So I'm not going to count him out. But if he doesn't start, I mean, you got Kingsley and you got Wanye. Wanye's still dealing with a bone bruise in his knee, and he really hasn't had time to let it heal. So it's a little scary situation. Unless they decide they want to put Tooney over there again, and
It
I
seems
don't
like
know.
they only want to do that in high leverage situations.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're worried about breaking up continuity. I don't know why they seem to be so hesitant and do it. Maybe they don't. Maybe they just don't trust him. In a full multiple, spread. Like they're worried about. I don't know, a defensive edge sort of
Well, it breaks up
learning
the
how to go
line
up
when you do
against
that.
him. I
It
don't.
does break up the line, because we run up the middle anyway. We're
Yeah,
one of those teams that use the middle for the run game more than the outside. And if you break that up and you put Tooney at left tackle, you're breaking up that interior, and that's something they don't really want to do, just for simply because of the run game. Mainly when you got Pacheco in. When Kareem's in, it's a little bit different because he can take the outside pretty well, and he's really good at finding that open hole and he's patient, I guess, is the difference between him and Pacheco. He's very patient. So it wouldn't be so much of a big deal if it was just strictly Kareem Hunt. But now that you got Pacheco starting, I would say, yeah, that's probably why. They just don't want to break up that those three are the best in football right now. You don't want to break that up.
yeah. I mean,
And it
which
would.
is which is fair. But with how Patrick Mahomes is just getting beat to hell,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
there's got to be a better solution to this. So
Well, and the solution better come quick because the playoffs are right around the corner.
we're running out of time here.
And
Yeah,
they've got running out of time. And that's got to get fixed because Mahomes, he's been sacked, I think, 22 times this year already.
he is
Or
already
since
broken
November.
his
I'm sorry.
career high, and
Yeah, I think that's since November, if I'm not at the beginning of November. I think it's 22 times. So that's pretty sad that I mean, 22 times since the beginning of November. That's pretty rough.
he's already beaten
So
his the most times he's been sacked in his career. And he's lost trust. Honestly, I think they should do more bootlegs and be able to
Oh,
move the
yeah.
pocket more. I think
Yeah.
that that would really, especially if Xavier Worthy and Patrick Mahomes are really starting to get on the same page, right? Run
Yeah.
some of these, some of these quick routes, right? The over the middle of the field to be able to get them moving, right? And you can't do it all the time because defenders will catch up on it. But just run some quick slant routes, 4 or 5 yards, put Xavier in the slot, move the pocket, roll out to the right, and just dump it off there, right? I think that
Yeah. Yeah.
we're probably going to see more of that, but I do think that that is at least one solution to having this bad offensive line. You have to start to scheme around it, and that's really effective. The problem is that you can't do it too much. And maybe we
Right.
start to see it on some of these third downs outside the red zone. I think Andy Reid is just so willing to take field goals, sort of like we talked about a little bit earlier. He's so willing to take
Mm,
these field goals that we're not going to see these kind of plays in the red zone because he'll just take the three, trust the defense on the back end, and move on with his life.
I agree. I agree. It's strange to think about it, but Mahomes has had a lot of broken records this year that aren't good records. I mean, he's had some good breaks or records broken that are nice to hear about, and he's getting ready to break another one if he can get past this game and throw. I think he needs one touchdown, one passing touchdown to pass Dan Marino in the first 8 years of someone's career, even though it's really Mahomes' seventh year because he didn't start his first season, and Dan Marino started, I think, his sixth game in to that season. But that's another record he's getting ready to break, which Marino still holds that. He's the number one in NFL history. So it's nice to see that, but he's also, like you said, he's also breaking other records that aren't so nice to see. Most sacks he's ever had, probably the most incompletions he's ever had, lowest passing rating he's ever had. All these things combined, it'll jack with you a little bit,
Yeah, his
and that's
counting stats are not good.
no, they're not. And look, we know it's not his fault, but and there's some that you can blame on him, but then again, no matter who you are, if you don't trust who's in front of you, and you don't have more than half a second to a second to get rid of the ball, and you can't read your progressions, nobody's going to be perfect in that situation. Nobody. So it's a tough situation to be in. Like we've talked about on the show numerous times. I think Veach made a mistake this year, and he made a mistake last year with Taylor and that stupid contract. But this year it's gotten worse because you relied on two guys for the blind side that were untrusted. There was no film on them to say, yeah, they can do it. It was just, to me, that was probably the biggest mistake he's made. I mean, remember in 21, I think it was, he overloaded on offensive linemen because of the 2020 Super Bowl
Yeah.
and how bad that ended up being. And then he's out there getting Long and everybody else. Long's walking around with a broken hand. They're trying to put him in, and he was okay. It wasn't the best, but it was okay. And like we talked about last week, he hasn't had a decent left tackle since
Eric
Fisher.
Fisher. Yeah.
Eric Fisher
Eric,
was the last guy that was good.
and
And I'm not saying he wasn't great, but he was better than anything we've got now.
Eric
So
Fisher was a franchise left tackle. He wasn't great. He wasn't bad, but he was a solid left tackle. But
yeah,
he shouldn't be the best. Not just like he shouldn't be the best left tackle that you've had. Um,
no,
now I know that the Chiefs drafted him 1-1, right? And that's the problem. The basis of the problem is that you're not getting a franchise left tackle where the Chiefs are going to continue to draft at because tackles are such a need for every team outside of maybe 4 teams in the NFL. Every single other team would say, yeah, we could use an upgrade at left tackle, you know,
yeah,
or
yeah.
or right tackle. You draft a left tackle, move him to the right side. Every single team in the NFL would take that outside of a handful.
And
And
if you look at some of the successful teams like San Francisco, that with Brock Purdy of all people, now I'm not saying he's the worst quarterback in football, but he's definitely not, this prodigy guy. But because of his offensive line and the system that they run, he's looking like a superstar. And
I
they got a
mean,
35-year-old player,
look
36
at
year old player. I'm sorry.
Look at the Broncos.
So
They just
yeah,
re-signed they just re-signed their left tackle out of
exactly.
everyone except I think their left guard. They're signed up. Their offensive line is signed up for 3 more years. Like
And they're solid.
even yeah, right. Look at Jared Goff up in Detroit. He
Yeah.
ever since that they rebuilt that team. They rebuilt the offensive line around him. The Eagles, they rebuilt that offensive line. Like this is simple, if you're able to have a solid offensive line, then you're bound to have more success as a team. Sometimes football
Yeah,
isn't hard, people.
exactly. Sometimes you're better off. I mean, as much as this sounds weird, you're better off kind of slacking off on some of your skill positions to make sure your offensive line is good because as long as your quarterback's good, which we have, and he's always been able to buy himself time, he's able to find an open receiver, even if they're not the top star wide receiver in the league. So, I mean, look at some of these teams that do have tops. Look at the Bengals. Look at
Perfect example. I was
perfect example is
literally
the Bengals.
getting ready to bring that up if you didn't.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they got one of the best receivers in football,
Which
and
they chose
they,
over a pure purebred left tackle.
yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's crazy. Crazy to think about how the offensive line makes such a difference in the entire offense, but it does. From the run game to the pass game to everything, it just makes a huge difference. And we have slacked on that for the last 2 years, really. So this is something that Veach has really got to look at when he goes into this draft next year. Is we got to fix this problem. And if you can't find somebody to draft and get acclimated quickly, which I guess he thought he had in Kingsley, you better find somebody that you can trade some draft picks for.
Well, the
Get it,
problem
get a
is
trade
that
going.
the Chiefs got lucky with the Orlando Brown trade, and I know that
They
that
did.
is hard for some people to hear, but the fact that Brown was available for trade, the Chiefs got extremely lucky. They needed a left
They
tackle.
did.
They traded with a rival in the AFC to be able to snag him
And they
up.
fleeced that rival for like a third straight time. So it's not like
Uh,
they, you know,
but the fact that he was just available, right? I
yeah,
just brought up that every other team in the NFL wants a left tackle. One was trading them away. You were able to
yeah,
snag him up, and he was. I know he receives a lot of hate in Kansas City. A lot of it is just because of what he thought of himself and the contract negotiations and all that
yeah,
stuff. But he was a solid left tackle. He made mistakes, right? And when he's one of those guys where when he failed, it just looked horrible.
yeah.
He was a turnstile when he failed, but he was still. You were able to put him out there, and Patrick Mahomes wasn't
Have
looking over his shoulder every 4 seconds.
correct, correct. He had, there was some trust there,
Yeah,
which he had. Patrick hasn't had that in a couple of years. So, and the crazy part is, and I think what's frustrating about that whole Orlando Brown situation is, he wanted this contract that was just astronomical from Kansas City, but the contract that he took was 30% less than what he was asking for to stay here. That's what was frustrating.
well, let's talk about this Chiefs game that we've got coming up. I mean, we know that Miles Garrett is
Top three.
phenomenal. I think that, yeah, I mean, it goes between a couple people, but I think Miles Garrett is the best edge rusher in football. I know some people bring up TJ Watt. To me, the conversation is kind of pointless in a lot of
Yeah.
ways, just
Miles
because
Garrett
it's
is
like,
absolutely the best in football.
I mean, just because, sure, okay, you could say if you're really like TJ Watt's the best, it's like, okay, yeah, they're both great. Like there's not a
Yeah.
lot going on there. Um,
I think the
but this,
difference, though, between those two, Quentin, is that Miles Garrett has so much more technique along with his damn strength that
yeah,
it makes him so much better. TJ Watt is more of a let me bowl over you type of guy. I don't have that much technique, but I can push you over pretty quick. And I'm
I think
fast.
I think the other thing is that TJ Watt just has made more big plays in his career. Like force fumble sacks, like those sort of things,
But
and
he's been
because he's
injured
been
more
on
in
a
his career too.
he has, but he's been on a more relevant team. That also
Yeah.
helps.
Yeah.
Yeah,
People
but
forget that Miles Garrett's around because he played for the Browns. When you talk about the Browns, or you talk about great edge rushers in the league, they always bring up somebody like TJ Watt because, again, he's with the Pittsburgh Steelers. He's not with the Browns that haven't won, a handful of games in the last 3 years.
Yeah.
That's the problem. Jason Kelsey made a comment during that game when they were doing the Simpsons thing, and I guess it pissed a lot of people off. But he said somebody made a statement about, I don't know, when it was the cartoon version, made a statement about the armpit of America, and I think they were talking about Cincinnati because they were doing both games at that time. It was the Cowboys and Cincinnati, and they were doing the flashback between the Simpsons version of it and then going back to Jason Kelsey. And Jason Kelsey popped off and he goes, "Oh, it's kind of like the Cowboys, the armpit of America," and that pissed everybody off. Well,
Yeah.
really, when you think about it, it's the Cleveland Browns. Cincinnati is the armpit of America. So Ohio is a rough place. I mean, guys that live there say this sucks. They've been there their whole life. Yeah, I wouldn't go back. It's a shitty ass place. So for anybody it's kind of comical because they really are the armpit of the country. And you got two teams sitting there. One is mathematically still in the playoffs, but if they lose one more game, they're out. The other one has no shot. They're a little bit of a danger to teams like us because they want to be that spoiler.
Yeah.
They're really not going they're not in a position. That's the problem with Cleveland right now. And that's what we have to worry about as far as the trap game is concerned, because they're not in a position to throw a game for draft reasons. They're in that intermediate spot that they're not going to get the best and they're not going to get the worst. So kind of like how the Raiders are, kind of like how the Jets are. They're in that spot where, man, I, we could beat them and still probably be in the same draft spot. That's what we got to worry about with Cleveland.
Well,
And again,
and
Myles Garrett.
yeah, their defensive line is good. Shelby Harris is on the interior, and as Chiefs fans, we saw Shelby Harris for like 6 years when he was with the Broncos. So, it's not like they have just the one guy. This is a quality. It's not as good as it was last year. This is still a quality defense. It's just one of those. It's just one of those things where after a while you just sort of get beaten down as the year goes on. But there's still a lot of talent there. So
there is, and their
Kansas
secondary
City,
is not bad. Think about who's on their secondary. I mean, they're not horrible players, and some of them wouldn't mind getting a pick against us, a pick 6. But they're not bad players. Their defense is much better than their offense. Can blow their games really quickly. That's the thing.
yeah,
Their offense
and
can really blow a game quick.
I have a hot take about Trent McDuffie.
Uh-oh.
You ready for this?
Uh-oh.
I know this might upset a lot of people, but my takes
I'm
generally,
already upset.
even though they're mostly correct, they
I'm already mad.
upset
You've
people.
made me mad already. I'm quitting the show.
I believe that if Trent McDuffie does not get an interception against Jameis Winston, he will go his entire All-Pro career without getting an interception, because Jameis Winston is the Oprah Winfrey of throwing interceptions. He gives them out to everybody. He prayed to God to stop him from throwing pick sixes. If Trent McDuffie can't get one now, it's never going to happen. And we as Chiefs fans just need to accept that.
You know who needs to be in this game? Jaden Hicks. He needs to play in this game because he's a ball hawk. He's a safety ball hawk is what he is. I mean, think about it. The first couple of times he's even stepped onto the field, he got an interception. Kid's had 2 interceptions. He started 6 times, or he's played 6, 7 times in a game. He's a really good player, and I got a feeling if you put him out there, Jameis is going to have a rough time because that kid really reads quarterbacks, and Jameis is an easy quarterback to read. He is very easy to read. What I like about this game is that I get to see Jameis Winston, his pregame interview and his postgame interview.
Look, Jameis Winston, he's good for the NFL. He really like that he's a quarterback. I'm happy he's not my quarterback, but he's a lot like what's the Colts quarterback? What his name is passing me, Anthony Richardson. He's a lot like Anthony Richardson. I'm happy he's in the game. I'm just happy he's not my quarterback because he's really fun to watch because you don't know what's going to happen on every play, whether it's really
you never
good
know what's
really
going to come
bad.
out of his mouth.
So Yeah,
Just his speeches, his motivational speeches to the team make me laugh.
yeah.
He's just a funny dude. That whole chicken thing that time when he was licking his fingers like
Oh
KSC.
yeah, he's eating W's, where he's
Oh
like
my
on
god,
the
that was
yeah, he's
hilarious,
a
man.
funny dude.
He really is. I mean, he's got a career in comedy after this. He really does. He's a comedian. He's just a comical dude. And he's genuine about all of it. He's not that's just him. And anybody you talk to says that's just how he is. He, that's not just some show. He's really like that all the time. People love him in the locker room. Whether he's a backup or third string or starting, they love him in the locker room because he just makes them laugh all the time. And that's, sometimes you got to have that kind of stuff. That's what Clyde does for Kansas City. Clyde's a funny dude, and he always makes them laugh. He's always got them laughing. You know who else was like that was Charkandrick West. When he
Yeah.
walked on the field, they just start smiling because you never know what he was going to do. He was just a funny ass dude. So, you know, Jameis he's got his good moments, more bad than good. He makes more mistakes than he doesn't, but he's still a fun dude to watch. No matter how you look at it, he's a fun dude to watch. Hey, by the way, I don't know if you've kind of noticed, but have you noticed that Miami, since Tua's come back, their numbers have spiked tremendously?
Yeah, it's
And
almost
they,
like when you have a quality starting quarterback, your team can look good.
yeah, but he's not the best. He's really accurate, but
I'm pretty sure a star wide receiver said he's the most accurate quarterback in the NFL.
yeah, he backtracked on that one. He changed. He backtracked on that pretty quick. That was more of just him being spiteful. But yeah, man. I mean, they're looking pretty. Now, have the Bills played them twice yet? I can't remember.
uh, I don't know. I know they've played them once. And I
I'd
mean,
like
at
to
this
know if they.
point, no, yes, they have to because the Bills have the Lions, the Patriots, the Jets, and the Patriots. And I believe that the Bills swept them.
Oh, they did. Okay, I was just curious because the way they're looking right now, the Bills probably would have a hard time with them being divisional rivals, and the fact that Tua's making it look so much easier than it is. I think they'd have a hard time with them. But anyway, I was kind of like he said, I'm hoping for a McDuffie pick. I'm fine with that. He said Revis won his season without an interception and still made an All Pro team. He did, um, but McDuffie's had what, one interception or two in his career so far.
He doesn't have one.
Oh, he doesn't have any in the
He doesn't
NFL.
have
That's right.
any. That's why I'm saying if he doesn't get one against Jameis Winston, it's not going to happen ever. He will never
This
get
is
an
third
interception.
season, right?
Yes, he has
This
never
is
had an
yeah, third
interception.
season. Roof. Well,
Which you know what?
did he
If
have? It was college that he had like three or something, right?
yeah, because he played at
In all of his
Washington,
college career.
who has brought out really good. They seem to just produce really good corners.
Yeah, they do.
So this is a this is why I make that statement that if this isn't the week, it's never going to happen. And as us as Chiefs fans, we just have to accept that we have an All-Pro corner that what
Uh-oh. Something happened. I'm sure he'll be back.
I got back. I just got dropped
Oh,
for some reason.
whoa.
It's not even. I'll
It's probably
finish
from
my
that
point.
take.
It's yeah, it
I
was
think.
too hot. It was too hot for StreamYard.
Oh,
It's like it's not even like that he's a bad corner. That's the crazy part is that it almost just seems like he plays for the deflection. Like he just
yeah.
plays for to knock the ball down and he's not even worried about it. This was last week. No, it was against the Raiders where there was a ball that was basically thrown right to him. And the wide receiver for the Raiders, whoever it was, he tried to reach down like he tried to turn his back and catch it on his hip, which is a
Yeah.
perfect ball to intercept as a cornerback because that ball is basically being thrown to you.
Yeah.
But he knocked it down, moved on
Yeah.
with his day. That's fine. He is a blue collar corner, right?
He
He's just
really
here.
is. He
He's
really
just here to
is.
get his job done, wipe his
Yeah.
hands, go away. And that's fine.
Yeah.
We as Chiefs
He's
fans
that
just
Ford
need to
worker.
remove the expectation that he's going to get turnovers. And that's fine.
Yep. I agree. That's kind of funny. Um, let's see. What else do we got? Let's see. We talked about Steven Nelson, right?
Yep.
Talked about Harrison Bucker.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about the misery on the offensive line. Hey,
Misery is a good word for it.
you know, not enough is being said about Turk. That dude has been on fire, man. On fire. Turk has just been, he's been there every time. And it's funny because we talked about this, when he first got drafted with the Chiefs, and the going sentiment around the team, I guess you would say, and people surrounding the team is that he was too small. He was fast, but he was too small. I never really agreed with that, but that was the going sentiment around the team.
Okay. Wow, I got dropped, and now JP. We gotta figure this out.
Are you there?
Yeah, you sort of froze, so you need
I don't know
to.
what's going on with that. That's weird. Uh, I don't know if they're doing an update with StreamYard or not. But anyway, I don't agree with that. I don't think he's too small. I think he needed some time to acclimate, which he's
Well,
done.
that's just generally an issue, right? I mean, if you're small, and you have ball skills, you're usually made into a corner to begin with. Like they won't even
Yeah,
attempt you. Like if you were to just go through and look at the average height, if you're taller, you're a wide receiver. If you're shorter, you're a corner. Like that's almost
yeah,
a universal rule. There are I can't even think of any cornerbacks that are over 6'1".
yeah. I mean, you're right. There's one, and he got drafted, and I wish we'd have got him. I think he's like 6'5". Me and Philip talked about him during the draft. What Philip will remember his name, but Turk has done amazing things as a pass rusher. He's quick. He's got skills. He's got technique, which is, in my opinion, in that position, it's more important than just pure strength. Kool-Aid, that dude's huge.
Oh, from
I would have
Alabama,
loved to
yeah.
got him. Yeah, man, that dude's a beast, and I would have loved to have him. But anyway, with Turk, he's just come on extremely strong this year. I think now that Omenahu's getting his feet under him, getting the rust knocked off, everybody's going to get in sync on that defensive line.
Yeah,
If they put Uche
Wharton.
in there,
Yeah, the Uche thing. Tershawn Wharton has been phenomenal. I think that he's been
yeah,
extremely underrated, and I'm happy we were able to keep talking about him.
yeah,
Man, the Uche thing, it's just so. I mean, he literally had one snap last. Like, I
dude,
don't
I
know.
asked too.
They
Quentin, I
traded for
asked.
him when he was put out there for like the dozen snaps or so that he was against like the Panthers and against the Raiders. Like they seemed to be quality, right? Now he didn't
They
like
were.
get to anybody, but like you saw that he was able to make moves, he was able to get into the backfield. Like you
His
saw
speed was there. I
speed
mean,
rushers where solid rotation piece. I never expected him to come in and be a starter. I always thought, hey, it's 3rd and 7. They have to pass the ball. Go out there and get the quarterback. That's what I thought that he was going to be. Purely a rotational piece, but every good team needs you could always use another rotational pass rusher. I mean that's what good teams do, right? The best teams in the NFL have 8 pass rushers, and Joshua Uche looked like he was going to be sort of adding depth and just adding quality talent. And the
mhm.
Chiefs just, it's like they forgot that he was on the roster.
Yeah, yeah. And it was frustrating. I even asked, dude. I called and I said, "Hey, man, what the hell? Why is he injured?" No. Kind of alluded to getting him completely acclimated with everybody and then using him more towards the end of the season into the playoffs. Okay, but you don't get acclimated with one snap. I mean, you just don't. He's better than who we've had out there. He just is. He's faster. He's got more technique. He's got more skill. He's got more tenure in the league, and yet they're not utilizing him. If that's what they're doing, and they are actually um, holding him off until the playoffs, then fine. but I don't see that. I don't see why. I mean, he seems like even Chris Jones had made mention of how good he is. So it's very strange to see him not playing at all and the minimal snaps that he's getting.
Yeah,
Hopefully that changes.
it would be different if he was getting rotation pieces and he was coming in and he would get, 10 snaps, right?
Yeah.
Because, if he's coming out there and he's getting 10 snaps, some of them or most of them on pure pass rush downs, like I said, the, third and longs, second and longs, maybe every once in a while, maybe one or two of those snaps, it's a 1st and 10, and you've got him out there, and then he comes off the field. I'd have no problem with that. In fact, I'd respect that because you have your pure starters. You know who your guys are. You're going to run with those guys, and then change of pace, right? The thing Uche is best at is he's just really quick off the ball. And if you're able to use that late in the game against a tackle that's tired, or maybe you put Chris Jones up against a tackle a couple of times, and then you move him back over to the tackle spot, and you're able to put Uche out on the outside on the same offensive lineman that Chris Jones have just fought. You're talking about two stark different players. I think that would be an effective use of him because you're sort of changing the entire way that you have to block somebody. I think that would be an effective, but they're just not using him at all. And I do
Uh-uh.
not understand. It's not like the Chiefs are just perfect with the guys that they have. And it's just like, well, we've got it. We don't need you. They could use to get more pressure on the opposing quarterbacks. And once again, it's not like the last couple weeks they've been facing guys that are just phenomenal at avoiding pressure.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't get it. Now, I mean, I know it's situational football and that's just how it is. And maybe, I don't know, maybe look, they're coaches. Maybe they see something we don't. It's just very strange. I noticed last week, even the week before last, it seemed like Spags was having a hard time with some of the defensive calls. I don't know if it was he just maybe they confused him a little bit, which is hard to confuse Spags from an off. I mean, he reads offenses probably better than anybody, but I noticed that they were struggling in a couple areas. Um, we haven't seen the all out blitz, the corner blitz. We just don't see that as much this year as we've seen in years past. You got a guy that is good at that. Justin Reed's very good at a blitz. Um, he's lacking in other areas, but he's very good at that. Nazi Johnson's actually a really good blitzer. Um,
Yeah, I think I could answer that. I think part of the reason is that because you don't have Snead, right? That if you
maybe there's
like,
just something we just don't know.
yeah, I think that not having Snead is part of that.
That's
Because
a huge part of it.
if you were to send a safety blitz, well, last year you had two corners that could be on an island, right? Where this
Yep.
year you don't
They got to
have,
have help.
right, they have help, or you're doing you're playing a lot of like cover two, right, where you're just
Yeah.
having two guys deep. It's hard to have that sort of a blitz. And then if you have like maybe like a Chamari Connor, right, you want him to be that blitzer. Well, he's sort of turned into at least your part-time slots corner, right? So
Yeah.
if you're blitzing with them, not the biggest part is just not having two, all pro kind of corners, right? I mean,
Yeah.
that's been a big detriment. I thought that while I in no way expected Chamari Connor to be the corner that Snead was, I did think that some of the side stuff was going to be implemented under Chamari Connor, and it just hasn't turned out that way. So I was wrong in that sense. But the big thing is just this defense is worse from last year because you lost one of the most important defensive
And I
pieces.
got to tell you, I was very adamant about that on the show, and I said this is going to hurt our defense.
Of course
And
it was.
everybody kept saying, oh, we'll be okay, and we weren't going to be okay because when you got two All Pro guys that play off each other constantly, the way those two did, they were a perfect partnership. When you break that up, shit's going to change. Now, Watson started off looking pretty decent. You can't rely on just him. That's why we had Watson, was because Snead, if he got injured, if his knee was messed up, whatever the case was, we knew Watson can step in and do the job. Well, who do we have behind Watson that's going to be able to do the job? I'm not slamming Najee Johnson because of his time in the league and how much he's been able to play. He is not everybody is going to be a Snead. Not everybody's going to be a McDuffie. He needs more time to acclimate. And coming into the league, not playing, and then playing a little bit and being out for a season doesn't really give you the time that you need to acclimate.
Yeah. Yeah,
So I don't know,
and
man. It's just rough.
that injury has been way more impactful. I think that because of
Mhm.
all of the other injuries that have happened, especially on the offensive side, we sort of just pushed that
Yeah.
one. But yeah, that one has been such an impact. I don't think that we as Chiefs fans really realized how good of a corner that he was. And
Yeah.
then it's sort of, like you don't know what you have till it's gone.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think we've definitely seen that.
Absolutely. But, the one good thing that might come out of this whole situation, no matter what happens this year, I have a very strange feeling, and I've kind of heard this through the grapevine a little bit. Snead might be back here next year. And it may be a situation to where they end up paying a lot of that contract. Not the Chiefs, but the team he's with right now
Yeah, the
for the
Titans.
right draft pick. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I know he's missed time. He's missed time
He's
as a
missed time.
Titans,
Okay, but here's
and
the thing. Don't read into that too much. That hamstring injury is
it's his knee.
not, or it's not even just his knee. He had a hamstring too. The hamstring has lingered longer than the knee did. The reason it's lingering is because he's fucking doesn't want to play, dude. He's in a situation to where he just, even when he was ready to go, I don't know, it's not ready yet.
I am just because you remember he missed all of training camp last year, and yes, he was able to play the season, but he missed practices, and you're talking about a guy that's now 2 years older. I don't know about that. I'm just
Dude, he's
that makes
27
me.
years old.
I know, but sometimes it's not the age of the person; it's the age on the body.
I have a strange feeling he'll be back here. Now he's not going to. I mean, he's going to come in here on a very minimal contract if they get that to happen.
And if that happens, man, then that's going to be an expensive draft pick.
Well, it
If you're
might
going to
be.
ask
I
the
mean,
Titans
well, it
to,
wasn't expensive. No, not really, because think about it. We gave him to the Titans for a sixth or
third
a
round
seventh
pick,
round draft pick, huh?
we got a third round pick in return.
We got a third round pick.
Yeah, and they
I'm
gave him
saying,
a new contract.
but the Titans didn't get the Titans got a seventh round pick. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah,
They didn't. They got they got him for pennies, really. Yeah, they gave him a new contract, but they got him for draft pennies and draft capital. I don't see how, especially with the fact that he has missed time, the Chiefs can go in there and offer a sixth and get it and get him back. But they'd have to eat that contract. I would give him, look, man, this year alone, regardless of what anybody thinks about his injuries, it's not as bad as anybody thinks it is. This is
yeah. I just think that this is something that we're not going to agree on. I think that's
for
the
two
crux of
years.
it.
I'm sorry. I would do it for a fourth round pick to get him back in here for 2 more years. I would do that.
Yeah, I just don't think. Yeah, I just don't think we're going to agree on that.
William Ryan won't, but I would, because what's happened this year in the cornerback room is a perfect example of why you need him, and you need a Jalen Watson that's a great backup. We don't have that. We got Jalen Watson, Najee Johnson, and Joshua Williams. That's what we have.
I mean,
I
that's the
mean,
way that it's just going to be, right? That's the way that you need to keep moving on. You
you have
can't.
to keep moving on, but you also have to have somebody that can stay on the field and be able to play the field the way it should be played. And I'm
You
not
have
saying
to.
these guys are going to be horrible for the rest of their careers, but dude, it's hurting us on the defensive side. That's the one thing on our defense that we're struggling with. It really is. I mean, we're struggling a little bit on the defensive line, or were before uh, who came back. Maybe just with a sack situation. We're creating a lot of pressures, not as many
Yeah, I
sacks.
mean, Chris Jones was top of the NFL in pressures. So
Exactly. But sack wise, we're not getting there as much, or we weren't, especially through the first 10 games. So a, a guy like him can change the way your team looks. Just like a mini who changes the way the defensive line looks. Uche would change the way the defensive line looks if they just put him out there. There's just certain things that, as an outsider looking in, you go, man, what the fuck? What are we doing here? We had the number 2 defense, really the number 1 defense last year. We gave away part of it. Now we see the issues that we're having on the defensive line. We bring a guy in, but yet we don't utilize him. That's probably going to take up some of that issue. We knew a mini who was going to be out. If you listen to him, he was going to be back week 1, but we knew he was going to be out at least 8 to 10 weeks, which he was, if not a little longer, maybe to 11 weeks. So you,
do
our
you
whole problem this year has been depth in certain areas. We get the depth back in certain areas, not in all of them, but in certain areas, and we don't utilize them. I just don't get it. But hey, man, like these guys, we're talking about coaches that have taken us to 2 straight Super Bowls
yeah, I mean,
in
yeah,
4 and 5 years. So I mean, it's not like, you know, it's just frustrating to see it happen. But then again, we talk about this, Quentin, all the time. Andy is a different kind of coach.
yeah.
He refuses to show all of his cards in the regular season. I don't know how many times I have to say this. I've talked to people about it. Some of the guys that are inside the Arrowheads, that talk to him, they say the same thing. If he can win with a vanilla offense and with who he has on the field, and think about it like this: how many teams have a ton of stars on both sides of the ball and don't have a winning record this year? How many of them are going to make the playoffs? We got guys that people have never really heard of that aren't household names, but yet we're 12-1.
Yeah.
So it's kind of goes both ways. It's just frustrating to see Mahomes under so much pressure. It's frustrating to see the defense have some issues that, even Trent McDuffie hasn't had. He had a couple of games where he just looked like he was struggling. He gave up some pretty decent catches, a couple of touchdowns, how many touchdowns did he give up last year? None. None. That's when you see his stats go down because he doesn't have a counterpart that is able to handle it. And he's trying to help everybody, and it's getting him burned a little bit. The defense is out there way too long. That's another problem. It's not even about the time on the clock. It's about the amount of time that they're out there each time and how much they go through while they're out there. It's just that there's a few things that they got to clean up. I think they're going to be okay. I still think they're going to get to the Super Bowl this year. And that's not being a homer. That's just, I know how this team operates, and I know they're a totally different football team in the playoffs. The plays, the calls are different. The plays are different. Everything is different. So it's just frustrating to see these guys struggle. Even though it seems like they're having fun, Travis Kelce's not having fun right now. I mean, it kind of is what it is. It's frustrating to see these guys that have been. And think about this, Quentin. Just one other thing. Do you know how many teams have went to the playoffs after back-to-back Super Bowls? Out of I think there's
Two. I think it's
one
two. There's been six. There's been 6 teams, and the only
that have went
one
back-to-back.
that I've gone back to back. And I think the
Yeah,
49ers are the only one.
49ers are the only ones that made it back
Yeah.
to the playoffs.
And I think they lost in the NFC Championship game, and I believe to the Cowboys. I think it was
Cowboys.
the Cowboys.
It was the Cowboys.
Yeah, look at
So
me. I wasn't even alive then, and I know my NFL
no, you
history.
weren't. You were not. But just think about that, though, dude. I mean, for us to be back there with the struggles that we've had says a lot. So I guess you can't get too frustrated. The more frustration is more for the players than it is for them winning or not. I don't know. People are making a big deal about the Chiefs winning 10 straight games with one possession or less. Okay, well, it's really not or 15. They said it's really not 15. We've won 2 games this year by more than one possession.
Yeah, but they're
It,
saying the 15 in a row by the one possession. So they're like, if you win by more, obviously that doesn't extend it. They're saying that out of the last 15 games where it was one possession, the Chiefs have won. So like the Saints game, that one doesn't count because it was by multiple. But the Bills game, well, you lost by 9
yeah, but
points.
they
It's
won.
two
I think this
possessions. It
Ravens they
doesn't
won
count.
by 8 or 9, if I'm not mistaken. Was it Ravens game was 8 points or 9 points? I can't
Well,
remember.
8 points
But
is one possession.
yeah, well, I guess yeah, I
It's two
guess you
point
would say
conversion.
that.
It's a one possession game.
Yeah, it'd be one possession, but I don't know. To me, I don't. I think it makes them a better football team.
It is. It's a very impressive stat because at a certain point, you don't get lucky. It is just that's who you are, right? The
Exactly.
Chiefs are very much, and you make your own luck. Okay,
Yeah.
was the Raiders botching a snap the lucky? Sure, I guess so. But on the other hand, it's like okay, they would have had to kick like a 45-yard field goal where the kicker had already struggled in that game.
Yeah.
So even without that, it wasn't like they were guaranteed to win. At a, the blocked field goal against the Broncos, well, that was a play that you made. So
Yeah.
this whole notion that like the Chiefs have been lucky, I would say if you pull each individual game out by itself, I would say yes, they have been lucky. But the fact that just happens over and over and over again, it's like a good poker player.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you win one hand of poker, you're lucky. But if you win X number of poker hands in a row, at a certain point, you're just good at poker,
Exactly.
even though there
Exactly.
is a ton of luck involved in playing poker because you get the cards and you have no decision on what those cards are. At a certain point, you're just good at what you do. And I think that's what Kansas City is and has been. And I think that because the Chiefs break so many other narratives as to what NFL football is supposed to be, what teams
Yeah.
are winning teams are supposed to look like. It
Yeah.
just confuses people, and the default response is to just blow it away. Like those Chiefs, they're just a lucky team. Don't mind them.
Yeah. They got the refs. They're between the refs and luck. I mean, they who could, in the NFL rigging it for them. I mean, and if you really look at it, most of the people that are saying that, 99%
It's a
of them, they're
loser
saying
mentality.
it's a loser mentality from fans from loser franchises or somebody that Mahomes has already smoked numerous times. So if you listen to analysts, if you listen to any ex-football player, former coach, other than Rex Ryan because he's a fucking idiot, um, if you listen to anybody else, they'll all tell you the same thing. This is who they are. They're good at what they do. They know how to win football games when it comes down to it. That's just the way it is. And they're scary as hell because now all their fucking players are starting to come back. Everybody's coming back. Hollywood Brown's coming back. J- Dude, don't think Jalen Watson's completely out for the year because he may not be from what I'm hearing. Then you got Butker's coming back. Pacheco's back. All these guys are hitting the field right at the right time. They're all
Yeah.
coming back when they need to come back. And that's going to make a huge difference. You know, they're a scary football team. They're scary because of the way they win. And like we've said before, dude, when you think about how Andy does this compared to like a Dan Campbell. Dan Campbell's out there playing mediocre football teams and blowing them out by 30, 35 points. Well, that's great. You're also not Andy Reid and you don't have a Stephen King novel for a playbook. So all of those plays that you showed everybody, including the teams that you're going to play in the playoffs, most likely, all of your plays, they got all that film to watch on you. Even bad coaches watch film. It's pretty simple. They're not stupid. They watch film. So when the playoffs come and Andy opens up page 4 of that playbook, or even page 2, because he really hasn't come off the bland shit that he's done for the last 2 years, you're not going to know how to play him because you got no film on those plays.
The only person in the NFL that doesn't watch film is Jamarcus Russell.
That I can almost believe. That I can see that, yeah. But I mean, it just is what it is. You can do that all week long. You can do it every day. The Eagles have been doing it. Think about it. The Eagles, I mean, Saquon Barkley's changed that football team. There's no doubt. It has nothing to do with Nick Sirianni. He's a fucking idiot. Jalen Hurts is the same quarterback he was 2 years ago, last year, and this year. It's Saquon Barkley that's changed the way they look, but it's also their schedule that's very favorable.
Yeah.
And they've got a better offensive coordinator, a little better defensive coordinator now. They got a couple of corners. It makes them look a little bit better, but they're still not playing. They're still an NFC football team playing bad NFC football teams. No matter how you look at it. Will said the 49ers lost the NFC Championship game against the Giants in 91. Joe Montana got hurt in that game. His last game as a 49er. Do you guys think Hollywood Brown will play on Christmas? I do believe he'll play on Christmas. He has to. And I'm saying that because he's not acclimated to anything
He does.
at all.
Yeah. He played one real, I use in air quotes, real snap before he got hurt. So, and you're coming off of that. Remember, that'll be the end of this 10-day, 3-game streak. Correct. Where after that, it's the Broncos game. And hopefully, that is just a preseason game where you play a little bit, bench your guys because you already have the 1 seed locked up. So,
and that's
really
what we're
limited
for.
on your opportunities.
Absolutely. And it'll be a state. If we do that, and even if Hollywood plays and you got Mahomes benched and all your starters benched, that is a statement game for the Broncos. They're going to play all their starters. There's no doubt about that. They have to. They don't have a choice. I mean, what are we, 4 games up on them? So, and then they're trying for their playoff spot right now. I think they're in the hunt.
They're in the 7th seed. Yeah, they're the last wild card spot right now. Yeah,
they still are.
Yes, they are.
Okay.
I know the Dolphins and the Colts might have something to say about that, but
that's what I mean. Yeah, I mean the only team that is, I guess, hanging on by a thread is Cincinnati, and they're not going to win the next 3 or 4 games. So
no, they're done. I mean, I killed them in like week 6, so
yeah,
my opinion.
They're finished. But the Broncos, no matter how you want to look at it, they got a pretty stout defense. They really do. I'm not going to say a bunch about Bo Nix yet because even though he kind of shredded us a little bit,
yeah, Bryce
he was
Young
throwing to one
so
side of the football field. Yeah, so it is what it is. They're a team that's coming up right now. The Chargers, a team that's coming up right now. It's going to be interesting to see if we win this week. The Bills lose, it's over.
Yeah,
we're the 1 seed. If we have to play on one more week, like with I think is it Steelers or Texans next?
Steelers.
No, Texans. Texans.
Steelers, Texans, and then the Broncos. So
then the Broncos. So I think against the Steelers, if we have to play them hard, in my opinion, it's an easy game to win if we want to win it.
Oof, I will disagree with that when that game comes up. But
look, man, 157-yard rush doesn't scare me.
Yeah, we can save that conversation for that week. That might be one hell of a fight just because of how hard hitting their defense is. Yeah, all that is a conversation that I think we should save for next week, because after that the Steelers play the Ravens, and so they still are in a fight for their division moving forward. I would like to get to our score predictions before our show is up, and we are running out of time. Comically, I want to say that the score is going to be like 9-11 or 9-12, something stupid like that, just because that just seems to be the way that the Chiefs have been playing recently. But I'm going to go ahead and give the Chiefs a defensive touchdown. So I'm going to say something like we'll go 19-17. The Chiefs win on a last-second field goal kind of game, because that's just the way that everything is going on. And sometimes the best way to predict the future is to look at the past. And recent past says, well, game-winning field goal by whatever kicker decides to show up to the Chiefs sideline.
Well, Fizz has got 17-7, and I kind of like that score. I was going to say 20-7. So I'm going to say 20-7. I'm going to say in that range.
No way do the Chiefs win by more than 4 points. No way. Do not.
I think this is the week they break it. This is the week they break it.
I love
tired of all the talk,
but
hey, they're tired.
I do not see Kansas City pulling out a 4+ point win. I don't even know what the spread is. The spread could be 3 points. I don't care. The Chiefs are not winning by more than 3 points. It's going to be a close game. You know it. I know it. Don't lie to yourself. Jameis Winston is going to throw a pick six. His prayer to God is not going to help him against any corner or safety will get a interception except for Trent McDuffie. Chris Jones has a better chance of getting an interception than Trent McDuffie at this point. So
I would like to see Chris Jones get one and rumble to the end zone.
that would be awesome. And it would be extra funny because we know that Trent McDuffie will not get one.
Yeah, well, hey, if Jameis, like this says, if Jameis screws up and it extends the lead and we're up there 17-7, 20-7, I'm okay with that.
Yeah, it'll be a Colin Saunders Saints-esque interception by a Chiefs defensive lineman.
Here's the thing. I think they're so tired of hearing the luck bullshit talk that this may be a game that they just come out and kick somebody's ass. But you never know.
Yeah.
Phillips got 24-17.
That's too many points. Too many points. Too many.
That is a lot of points for. Well, hey man,
that's a lot of points for the Chiefs and the Browns.
Yeah, but the Browns have been on a roll lately. You never know; they might score 17 points. But with that being said,
now if 3 of those touchdowns are from Jameis Winston, divided up amongst the 2 teams, then maybe.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. It's going to be a fun game to watch just because Jameis is there. And hopefully, hey, man, hopefully Trent McDuffie does get an interception.
It'll be really, whether or not it happens, it'll be funny either way. So
I'd like to see him get the interception and the touchdown. I want to see a pick six.
What do you want me to say? What, are you expecting me to say no to that? Come on. Wrap the show up, JP.
All right, guys. Here. We appreciate you joining. We will talk to you guys again. Are we going to do a show after the game Sunday?
It's a noon game, so we can do a show after the game.
We will talk to you guys again on Sunday after the game. Peace out, everybody.